I was pregnant, but I didn't know who the father was. It took me months to realize. The man who claimed my body was the most dangerous man in the entire empire. A cursed full moon night, Ava, was being hunted by a pack of beastmen. The pitch-black forest loomed like the gaping jaws of a monster. I ran for my life. Behind me, the stench of blood pressed against my neck. Razor-sharp claws sliced through the air. Rip! My dress tore to shreds. Just a little closer. One more inch, and they would tear me to pieces. Desperate, I crashed into a deathly silent, ancient mansion. I screamed for help. Instead of human comfort, dozens of golden magic streaks pierced the darkness. The charging beast didn't even have time to free and was hurled away. Instant silence. I looked up, trembling. Upper body, muscles rippling under the firelight. A bloodied sword rested in his hand. Behind him swayed a long golden beast tail. He saved me. But something was desperately wrong. He was panting, his chest heaving violently, suppressing something inside. Then, burning golden veins erupted across his neck, rapidly covering his entire body. His aura turned feral, violent, insane. He lifted his head, glared at me.
Get out before I lose control and tear you apart!
But I saw it. If I ran, that raging power would burn his soul to ashes. He had saved me. Now it was my turn. Trembling, I stepped closer. My fingertips cautiously brushed his cold crown, trying to soothe the brutality. A violent backlash threw me away. I slammed hard against the stone wall. Too weak. With my power, I could never suppress him, unless I gave myself to him completely. The moment I hesitated, he snapped. His golden beast eyes snapped open. Next second, he was right in front of me. Before I could breathe, he pinned me well. Every touch sent violent shivers through me. An indescribable tingling heat tightened. Like he gripped the bedsheets, my breathing stood whole. Dangerous, yet impossible to resist. Golden light wrapped around our bodies. Our powers began to merge wildly. When I woke up the next day, I was resting against his chest, still masked. Only the sharp, cold line of his jaw showed. Instinctively, I reached out. I wanted to see his real face, but a powerful surge of golden magic blasted me away. I crashed onto the bed. Hard. Sunlight spilled through the curtains, blinding me. I was doomed. If Father found out I stayed out all night, he would kill me. Panicked, I got dressed and fled, as if I was escaping a nightmare. I staggered home and collapsed into a chair. A wave of nausea suddenly twisted in my stomach. Every drop of color drained from my face. I could feel it. A new life was growing inside me. I was pregnant, and I didn't even know his name. Bang, bang! Urgent knocking shattered my panic. Father wanted me in the drawing room. My heart tightened. Summoned my magic. I suppressed the life era inside my womb, burying my secret before going out. Inside the drawing room, the air was suffocating.
His Majesty has given his decree. We must offer our purest daughter to Crown Prince Ken.
The moment I heard that name, my entire body froze. Everyone in the Empire knew. Ken was a complete killing machine. Right then, Bella let out a soft, venomous laugh. She said that on the wedding night, the leopard god contract ritual would be performed. The ritual would test the bride's purity, and anyone judged because I knew I was no longer pure. If I went up there, I would die. I dropped to my knees, desperately begging Father. I cried out that Lucas and I were in love, that I couldn't marry Ken.
Let Bella marry Lucas.
Unwilling to give up, I continued pleading. But Father shoved me aside. He said the wedding was in 3 days. The royal palace had even prepared maids to train me for the consummation night. I had no other choice. Without a single backward glance, Father strode away. Bella slid over, bending down right against my ear.
I can't wait to see your performance at the wedding.
The day of the ritual, warm steam filled the bathing chamber. May leaned against the edge of the pool, washed my body. But my mind? It was trapped in a nightmare. That full moon growing night, that masked leopard clan man. I covered my lower abdomen, my face growing pale. What was I supposed to do? If Ken discovered I was pregnant,
I would definitely die.
My mother and Bella walked in. Bella looked down at me, her lips curling into a mocking smile.
Looks like the maids scrubbed you nice and clean. What a shame you're about to die anyway. I know your secret. You're not a virgin anymore. And you're pregnant.
Do you know, Ken has a private garden.
He buries a woman every single day to fertilize the flowers. Your ending may be worse than theirs.
In that instant, every drop of blood in my body frozen solid. How did she know? Unless the full moon night was a trap? As the thought crossed my mind, I lost control. Tears streamed down my face. The overwhelming terror swallowed me whole. I denied being pregnant. But Bella only stood there with a mocking smile. She whispered about that full moon night. How much I enjoyed it, and how I had conceived a child because of it. In that instant, I understood everything. That night was never an accident, it was Bella. She lured me into that forest. She paid those feral banspals to hunt me down. I stared at her in shock. All these years, everything she wanted, I gave it to her. Why did she still want me dead? Jealousy twisted her face. Every woman wants Lucas, and I was nothing more than a lowly cat. I don't deserve him. Mother stood nearby, soothing Bella as she spoke. She said that Lucas was Bella's fiancé now. There was no reason past the leopard god contract. My rage finally exploded. Gathering my residual magic, I lunged forward, hurling a strike straight at Bella's throat. But even stronger force slammed back against me. I crashed onto the ground. Blood spilled from the corner of my mouth. Defiant, I forced my head up, spitting blood. What if they can discover the truth? They laughed. In their eyes, Ken would never protect me. Because that man, I was the coldest, the cruelest killing machine. He might even torture me to death. Despair swallowed me whole. And then, with a deafening crash, the massive glass wall shattered. Wild wind mixed with a terrifying golden era swept through the room like a hurricane. A tall man burst through the broken window. He pulled me into his arms. His icy voice echoed throughout the room.
Who said I wouldn't protect her?
It was Ken. The bath chamber fell into deathly silence. Bella and Mother turned pale. Almost instinctively, they collapsed to their knees. Ken strode toward me, cold, overwhelming pressure. Ken declared that I was his wife. From this moment on, anyone defying me was making an enemy of the entire empire. Bella and Mother panicked, stammering, begging for mercy, claiming it was all just a joke. Ken didn't even waste a glance. Boom! Terrifying golden power erupted violently. Bella and Moher were instantly blasted away. I stared blankly at the man before me. I never could have imagined the killing machine actually come to save me. Lowering his head, he gently tucked a red rose. He said my lips were beautiful. His fingers brushed against them. Almost instantly, the power inside my body spiraled out of control. Soft cat ears sprang from my head. Countless pink flower petals drifted down. Pink spiritual energy wrapped around us. Exactly like that night. Chased through the forest, breathing shattered. A tingling weakness spread through my body, and as Ken watched me lose control, his gaze grew even more dangerous.
Just touching your ears.
He murmured.
And you've gave every reaction? Now I'm starting to worry. When the consummation night comes, will you turn directly into a needy little kitten in heat instead?
Blushing, I looked at Ken, quietly asked if the ritual had to happen tonight. Ken looked down, told me it was the law of the Empire. My heart instantly sank, because only I knew once the ritual began, my secrets would be exposed. Maid's voice outside, ceremony about to begin. Ken glided behind me, changing my gown. His long fingers smoothed down the heavy velvet, yet every movement felt dangerously intimate. His palm traced upward along my—
Just want to remind you how I'll strip this dress off you tonight.
Raw magic unleashed. Forcing my cat ears and tail back beneath skin, dangerous possessiveness in his eyes. He solemnly told me that no one else was allowed to see me like this. He lifted me effortlessly into his arms. Massive golden beast swooped down outside. Ken stepped onto the royal mount, flying towards the palace. Wild winds swept through my long hair. Below us, countless nobles and knights following closely. The entire vanguard bowed their heads in respect. And at the very front of them was Lucas. Instantly, a suffocating, lethal era crashed down on me. Ken had tracked my eyes.
I told you don't look at other men. You belong only to me now. So, this is all it takes to get you excited? In that case, I wouldn't mind taking you right here in the sky.
The massive, golden flying beast descended in front of the royal capital. Ken stepped down first, took my hand, leading me step by step into the castle. The entire palace was so luxurious it felt impressive. Flames and magical crystals illuminated the grand hall. Nobles and ministers lined up on both sides. My parents and Bella standing among the crowd, very top of the hall, seated upon the imperial throne, the most powerful woman in the empire, the Empress Elizabeth. Ken and I stopped together and bowed before her.
Begin the ritual.
At her command, a minister in white robes stepped forward. He raised both hands and powerful magic gathered in the air. An ancient black and gold magic book appeared before everyone. Its pages flipped automatically, stopping in front of Ken and me. Then the minister spoke in a deep voice.
Princess Ava, place your hand upon the book. Swear before the Empress. Remain forever loyal to Prince Ken and preserve the purest bloodline for the royal family. If there is any falsehood, the magic book shall release the power of darkness, will be devoured by beasts.
My face instantly turned pale, because I knew not only had I lost my purity, I was even carrying a child. And just then, Bella suddenly stepped forward. She deliberately looked at me and smiled.
Why does my dear sister look so pale? Could it be that you're hiding something?
Ava, What are you hesitating for?
The next second, Empress raised her scepter. A terrifying pressure crashed toward me. I could barely breathe. An even stronger surge of golden power blocked it. It was Ken. He protected me.
Don't be afraid. I'm here. No one can touch you.
Finally made my decision, because I couldn't die. Not just for myself, but for the child growing inside me. Panicking, I gathered every drop of my magic, bearing the abnormal aura of my pregnancy. Then I raised my hand and placed it on the leopard god's book. And I began my vow. I, Ava, will remain forever loyal to Ken. I will protect the purity of the royal bloodline. If I speak any falsehood, I willingly accept the judgment of the beasts. The instant the oath ended, the book suddenly erupted with dazzling golden light. There was no darkness, no punishment. I was accepted. The Empress nodded, and the minister announced the establishment. I froze in shock. Did I deceive the book? Or was the bastard growing inside my womb actually a royal heir? I induced labor. I had no time to think further. The consummation ritual began. Ken swept me into his arms and carried me toward the royal bedchamber. Thud, placing me gently onto the bed, leaning down over me, staring into my eyes, speaking in a low voice.
Are you ready to let your husband take what belongs to him?
This ritual was not meant for only Ken and me alone.
Beyond the layers of silk curtains, royal ministers and priests stood waiting. They would witness the whole process.
His cold breath drew closer, air suffocatingly thick, danger and raw tension. Just then,
Ritual time was almost upon them. Before the moon goddess descended, the process had to be completed.
The moment I heard those words, my body stiffened even more. Meanwhile, Ken lowered his gaze back to me, leaning close against my ear, dangerously hussy whisper.
They'll all be waiting outside. Tonight, every single scream I tear out of you will be heard.
Inside the silk curtains, air heavy, almost suffocating. I lay on the bed, tears falling uncontrollably. With reddened eyes, I looked at him. I told him they raised his hand. I only wanted to give myself to someone I tears.
I don't give love. I fuck.
Just then, a commotion suddenly erupted outside the curtains. Notables and unusually priests and quibule inside the consummation ritual. Bella was the first to stir trouble, raising her voice, saying it was far too quiet, questioning if the ritual had even begun. Even the Empress losing patience. She ordered that if the ritual did not continue immediately, the curtains would be pulled open by force. The moment I heard that, panic instantly overwhelmed me. I had to protect the child inside me. The moment Ken leaned close enough, I made my decision. Then I suddenly thrust it toward him. Slash. The sharp tip pierced directly into his chest. Blood instantly spilled out. Ken froze, looking at the wound, lifting his gaze back to me. For the first time, disbelief appeared in those golden beast eyes. My breathing stopped instantly. Footsteps outside, growing closer and closer.
Open the curtain.
Empress started to speak. My heart nearly leaped into my throat, but just 1 second before everyone burst inside, Ken suddenly reversed the dagger in his hand and slashed deeply across his own palm. Blood instantly poured out, grabbing a cloth stained with blood, violently throwing it beyond the curtains. Blood-stained cloth thrown beyond the curtains. My body still trembling. I had almost believed I was going to die. But Ken merely lowered his gaze to me, not angry, nor punishing me for stabbing him. He leaned closer, using his blood-stained fingers to brush across my lips.
I never force a woman in bed. I'd wait until you beg me to love you.
Whole body shuddered, breathing instantly uneven. Ken thoroughly pleased, fingertips deliberately lingering, stroking my lips, my body hotter and hotter. Just then, an urgent report suddenly came from outside the curtains. It was Lucas, reporting other beast clans had invaded the Empire's borderlands. Next second, he changed into black and gold battle armor. Atop his head, the golden beast ears appeared, symbolizing royal power. Ken truly looked like the terrifying war machine. He didn't even turn back. He simply coldly ordered the Night Legion to assemble. Lucas immediately obeyed, leaping onto their massive flying beast mounts. Countless knights rapidly gathered behind them. Golden light illuminated the night sky. Soon, the vast army disappeared beyond the royal capital. Meanwhile, the maids escorted me away, but I never could have imagined what would happen next. Bella rushed into the grand hall, shouting that I had deceived the entire royal family. She claimed I was not pure at all, that I was even carrying the child of a low-born beastman. The mother hall stepped forward as well, claiming she could slay into fine. This Empress darkened completely. She raised her scepter, purple magic gathering wildly around her. Terrifying pressure instantly descended upon me.
Examine her immediately. And if every word is true, feed her alive to the imperial beast.
The Empress slammed her fist, summoning the doctor. An antlered female doctor approached, holding a glowing green crystal. Panic hit me almost instantly, because I knew the secret inside my womb was about to be exposed. She pressed it against my belly. Buzz green light spread. Dead silence. Everyone stared. The doctor's face fell. Finally, she lowered her head and announced,
Ava Adrian is carrying a child, and she conceived the child before the leopard god contract.
The entire hall exploded. Bella laughed out loud, first of everyone. Uncontrollable excitement. Waiting for this exact moment, she shouted my crime. Deceiving the royals. Deceiving the contract. Now, the only fate awaiting me was to be torn apart. Mother stepped forward as well, begging the Empress for my immediate death. Nobles and ministers quickly joined in. Countless voices filled with disgust, contempt, and cruelty crashed down upon me. I stood frozen, completely condemned. The Empress lost her temper. She violently raised her scepter. Purple magic swept the hall. Then she gave her icy command.
Take her to the arena, prepare the beasts, and notify Ken at once.
My heart sank, because I knew the so-called arena was never a trial. Guards bound me. Enormous crucifix. Center of the arena. Cold iron chains tightly locked around my wrists. Wild wind whipped through my hair. The surrounding stands were packed with nobles and beast clans alike. Everyone was waiting to watch me die. In despair, I lowered my head. Not far away, Bella and Mother stood among the crowd. The smiles on their faces were impossible to hide, waiting for this exact moment. In despair, the moment of my death. High above, the Empress rose. 2 words.
Execute her.
Boom. The next second, the gates burst open. Countless savage beasts came roaring out. Dust instantly swept across the entire arena. Sharp fangs. Blood-red eyes. Frenzied killing intent. Bound tightly. I have nowhere left to run. I closed my eyes. But as they were about to pounce, somethingly changed. Boom! A brilliant golden light exploded from my lower abdomen. Boom! A terrifying force swept across the arena. Every charging beast was blasted backward. Everyone shot to their feet, in shock. Even I froze in disbelief. A faint golden leopard marking suddenly appeared across my lower abdomen. Seeing it, the Empress' expressions changed instantly. She stared fixedly at the mark on my stomach. Then, as though she had finally realized something, she whispered in disbelief.
Why does Ava bear the royal oak of a leopard cub?
My child saved my life. Blinding golden power spreading, forming a massive barrier protecting her. Though Savage stood frozen, Bella staring at the mark, eyes filled with jealousy and hatred. In a loud voice, she reminded the Empress that the child's power was far too dangerous. So I should be killed immediately. The Empress fell silence, then thou the child's power flying at Silva. Boom! The golden barrier cracked. Little by little, backslosh struck my body, blood spilling from my lips. Bella became hysterically excited, pointing at me. You filthy cat blood! Die already! Silva advanced toward me once more. I tightly protected my stomach. No, I could die. But my child could not. No way left. I could only burn my own soul for spiritual power.
Has she gone insane? She's burning her own soul? Once a beastman ignites their soul, it means complete destruction. Her spirit will disintegrate. She'll power will shatter her, unable to ever take human form again.
Suddenly, a massive crack split open across the sky.
Boom! Blinding golden light instantly pierced through the arena. Everyone looked up. And from within that light, a man emerged. It was Ken, sword in hand, battle robes whipping in the wind. Those golden beast eyes were cold enough to suffocate the world. Then he spoke.
I'd like to see who dares touch my princess.
When I woke up again, several days had passed. Sunlight filtering through curtains, a body keeping his slave breath as I opened my eyes. From her I learned the truth. The man who had saved me in the forest cabin. It was Bring Me Ben. I froze. Soul damage was irreversible, yet Ken had gone that far. For me. Just as my thoughts spiraled, the bedroom door suddenly opened. Ken walked in. His face was paler than before. In a low voice, he said that if I hadn't woken up soon, he would kill whoever hurt me. While the hearts trembled violently. Next moment, Ken lifted me into his arms, taking me to bathe. Warm steam filled the bathing chamber. Ken lowered me into the heated water, hand moving toward my robe ties. Ear tops turning bright red, cat ears popping out uncontrollably. Flustered, I pretended to wash my hair, not daring to look at him at all. I told him I could undress myself. Next second, Ken pulled me back into his arms, his breath brushing against my face. Ask why my hands were shaking? I was brave enough to touch his tail that night. He took a small jar of scented balm, his lips almost touching me, warm fingertips tracing down my spine.
I just didn't want to watch you die.
Don't you want to be closer to me?
I'm pregnant! We can't do that right now!
I promised you, I'll wait until the day you truly fall in love with me. Right now, I just want to help you.
The next morning, I woke up on a soft, luxurious bed. My right hand sore and weak. Ken was already gone. Just then, a maid walked in, informing me Ken went to train the royal guards. He specifically instructed her to show me around the palace. A strange warmth spread through my chest.
After changing, I followed her out. The palace was quiet and magnificent, but passing a long corridor, I stopped. Far end of the hallway, a garden sealed behind enormous iron gates, bearing a royal crest, marked with a prohibition against entry. Curious, I asked the maid what lay beyond. The maid's expression instantly changed. In a lowered voice, she told me that was a forbidden area sealed by Prince Ken. No one was allowed to enter. Anyone who disobeyed the order would be executed immediately. Those words triggered a toxic memory, the mocking words my mother spit when I was trapped in the bath.
Do you know, Ken has a private garden. He buries a woman every single day to fertilize the flowers. Your ending may be worse than theirs.
A chill crept down my spine. And yet, deep down, I still felt Ken wasn't that kind of person. I couldn't stop myself. Walking toward the iron gate, I pushed open the heavy doors. The next second, I froze completely. Inside the garden, the ground was covered in countless white bones, and the faint smell of blood lingered in the air. All blood in my body frozen solid. Could it be every rumor about Ken was true? He's a merciless, psychopathic butcher? Suppressing fear, I walked deeper into the garden. Next second, I stepped on a loose stone. I lost my balance. Wave of weightlessness, falling downward. Opening my eyes, a hidden passage concealed beneath, ancient Beast Clan runes carved across walls. At the end of the tunnel sat a massive black chest. My first thought, corpses. Walking towards step by step, opening the chest. I was stunned. No bodies, only stacks of yellowed secret journals. My trembling fingers opened the first page, heart pounding harder, documenting the missing cat, clan girls from past years, or conceived bloodlines forbidden to exist. The rumors about women used as fertilizer had all been lies.
Ken was never the monster. Instead, he had been secretly investigating their deaths all along. I finally understood why Ken hated the royal laws, and why he was so desperate to protect me and my child.
Thinking of that, my eyes burned red, and just then, a familiar, venomous voice behind me.
Who said you can enter the Forbidden Garden? Who allowed you to pry into royal secrets?
The Empress has already given the order. Kill Ava and bury her here as well.
I glared at Bella, demanding to know her plan. She lifted a hand. An attendant stepped forward, holding a barbed whip. Seeing those barbs, my stomach dropped. But before I could react, struck crack! The first knifing pain instantly tore through viciously. I collapsed onto the ground. Bella smiled wider. She'd been waiting for this moment all along. She ordered the attendant to hit harder. Soon, the second lash. The pain was so intense. Then the third. My breathing began trembling, but Bella only sneered at me, reminding me this was the Forbidden Garden, violating royal commands. I deserved to die. She was merely carrying out the Empress' orders. She coldly ordered the attendant again. Keep going. Crack! The whip lashed down once more, pain draining my last strength. I collapsed helplessly onto the floor. Blood trickled down my arm. Only one thought remained in my mind. If Ken saw me like this, he would be heartbroken. My eyes sting. But Bella merely smiled, cold smile sending chills down my spine. She lifted a hand. My stomach dropped. An attendant stepped forward, holding a barbed whip. Agonizing pain instantly tore through my skin. I collapsed onto the ground. Bella smiled wider. She'd been waiting for this moment all along. She ordered the attendant to hit harder. Soon, the second lash, then the third. Blood rapidly spread. The pain was so intense. My breathing began trembling. I bit my lip hard and struggled to raise my head. But Bella only sneered at me, reminding me this was the Forbidden Garden, violating royal commands. I deserved to die. Keep going. She was merely carrying out the Empress' orders. She coldly ordered the attendant again, draining my last strength. I collapsed helplessly onto the floor. Blood trickled down my arm. Only one thought remained in my mind. If Ken saw me like this, he would be heartbroken. My eyes sting. Then next instant, the bracelet around my wrist burned hot. The gemstone turned bright crimson. No one knew how much time had passed. Brutal whipping finally stopped. I lay on the ground covered in blood, every breath laced with pain, and yet arms still clinging to journal against my chest. Because I knew it wasn't noticed the stories of those rats of dead girls. It was everything Ken had spent years in his hiding and protecting. She asked what exactly was it. Something so important I'd protect it with my life. Even in this pathetic state, I forced my head up. Then, word by word, I told her. Someone as rotten as her would never understand. Bella's expression turned icy. She walked straight towards me, trying to snatch it away. Boom! A blast of magic slammed violently into my body. Agonizing pain exploded through my every single nerve. A muffled cry escaped. Finally, unable to hold on, the journal slipped from my hands. Bella immediately picked it up, looking as though she had finally gotten what she wanted. She flipped through a few pages. Then suddenly, an idea occurred. She smiled. She said she could give me a chance to take the journal back. Raising her hand, terrifying fire magic instantly spread across the ground. The cold stone floor turned directly into molten lava. Scorching heat rushed toward me. Bella stood across from me, looking down at me from above. Deliberately, she waved the journal lightly in her hand. Then she spoke with vicious delight. If you crawl across the lava like a dog, I'll give the journal back to you. Otherwise, I'll burn it right now. I froze completely, because if those journals were destroyed, everything Ken spent years investigating disappeared. I clenched my teeth and nodded, dragging my broken, blood-soaked body forward. I began climbing little by little towards the molten lava. Step by step, I walked across the burning stones of molten lava, every step like red-hot blades. I didn't know how much time had passed, dragging my battered body, finally crawling to the other side. Blood continuously streamed down my legs. First thing I did, reaching my hand toward Bella, begging her to return the journal, but Bella suddenly smiled. Right in front of me, she simply let go. The journal instantly fell into the water. No, I lost all control, lunging my entire body over the roof's scorching edge. Ignoring the unbearable heat, I reached the molten lava to grab it. Agony of burning skin, body trembling violently. Too late. By the time I pulled the journal, it had been burned beyond recognition. Everything destroyed. Tears streamed down my face. Yet Bella won't let me go. She raised her hand. Cold water magic gathering wildly. Terrifying killing intent locked onto me. Then she screamed viciously at me. Bella screamed viciously at Ava. Go to hell! A fatal blast of magic shot directly toward me. No time to dodge. But just as the attack was about to pierce through, boom! An even more terrifying surge of golden power suddenly exploded from behind. Bella's magic was instantly shattered completely. The entire Forbidden Garden trembled violently. Then a familiar figure stepped in front of me. It was Ken. Terrifying golden killing intent. Surging like a storm. And Bella, who had been so arrogant, instantly turned deathly pale the moment she saw him. Then with a thud, she dropped to her knees. Ken rushed to my side, carefully helping me up, whole body trembling, blood seeping from wounds. In a low voice, he whispered,
I'm sorry. I came too late.
Suppressed emotions nearly shattered. Then Ken lifted his head and looked toward Bella. He asked her if these horrific wounds were her doing. Bella tried to defend herself, claiming I trespassed, merely punishing me according to royal law. Next second, Ken coldly laughed. With a single glance, he exposed her lungs. The magic used wasn't ordinary punishment. It was a forbidden, dark curse for devouring souls. This wasn't an execution under royal law. She wanted to completely erase my soul from existence, tearing my spirit to ash. The spell lay bare. The guards panicked. They all dropped to their knees and begged for mercy. They claimed that everything had been ordered by Bella. She even lied about having Ken's permission. Ken's expression darkened. He immediately summoned Venus. Then, in a cold voice, he gave the order, strip Bella of her noble status. And as for every guard participated in torturing me today, cut off their claws. Punishment announced. Everyone's face is deathly pale. Bella completely broken, doomed and cried desperately for mercy. But Ken didn't spare another glance, simply pulling me back into his arms. Then, without looking back, he carried me out of the Forbidden Garden. Behind us echoed Bella's desperate screams as she was dragged away. Ken carried me the entire way back to the royal chambers, hands staying tightly around me, afraid I might disappear. Very soon, the royal deer healer was urgently summoned. A green healing array unfolded throughout the room. After examining me, the healer finally let out a relieved breath. She said my injuries were mostly superficial wounds. Then she raised her hand. Soft green magic covered my body, burning pain fading little by little, warmth enveloping me, body relaxing into his chest, in what felt like forever. Pain completely disappeared, gathering courage to look at Ken. Quietly, I asked him whether he was angry that I entered the forbidden garden. Ken didn't answer. Instead, his gaze fell to the bracelet on my wrist. Then he asked softly if I knew why it had turned red. I shook my head. Ken took hold of my hand. He told me that the bracelet was tethered to our souls. Only when the other truly accepted, trusted, or loved him would it light up. So the moment the bracelet turned red, he would trust me unconditionally. Hearing that, my heart suddenly trembled hard. I couldn't help asking him if true. Why did everyone call him a cold-blooded monster? Ken fell silent. Then he suddenly asked me whether I had read the journals. I nodded. I told him I had read every single word inside them. Ken looked away, awkwardly. Even the tips of his ears turned faintly red, muttering they were merely childish things from when he was younger. Seeing him like that, I suddenly couldn't stop myself from smiling. Ken was nothing like the war monster. If anything, he was almost cute, thinking about the Cat Clan girls he had secretly protected, thinking about everything he had endured alone all these years. My chest suddenly ached, so I sat up and wrapped my arms around him, then softly told him that I truly felt heartbroken for the child he used to be. Hearing those words, Ken visibly froze. Then he gently held my waist and pressed me back onto the bed. His movements were tender, and then a slow, restrained kiss softly fell against my lips. Body instantly tensed. My breathing rose and fell uncontrollably, little by little, pushing me toward the edge of losing control. And throughout it all, Ken kept his eyes fixed on me, as if admiring every reaction I could no longer suppress. And then whoosh! Sharp sound slicing the air, shattering the atmosphere. Next second, an arrow shot straight toward Ken. The intimate tension in the room was instantly destroyed. But Ken's reaction was unbelievably fast. He didn't even turn his head. He simply raised a hand and caught the arrow firmly in midair. The arrow had stopped less than an inch from his eye. The room fell silent. Then Ken lowered his gaze toward the arrow in his hand, suffocating desire completely shattering, warping into absolute freezing bloodlust. In a low voice, he said,
"The day has finally come."
Ken thrust his hand out, catching the arrow midair. Warmth and desire vanished instantly. It felt as though the room had frozen over. For the first time, I saw that expression on his face. Suppressed, dangerous, laced with cold murder. Anticipated for a very long time. Etched onto the tail an ice blue crest unique to the Northern Territory. Ken stared at the arrow for a very long time. So long that the silence in the room became terrifying. Then, in a low voice, he finally said, "So, they finally found out." That night, Ken did not return until very late. Unease kept gnawing at me the entire time. Deep in the middle of the night, I had a terrible nightmare. In the dream, I was clutching my stomach, desperately running alone, through a forest. But the child inside me kept struggling in pain. I could even hear it cry clearly. That sound nearly drove me insane. Just when I was about to collapse, a figure suddenly appeared. A man stood deep within the forest. I couldn't to see his face, but his eyes remained fixed on me the entire time. His voice echoed through the darkness.
"If you want to protect your child, then leave Ken."
After that dream, I became increasingly restless, and just as my anxiety kept growing, Bella suddenly came to see me. She still looked at me with the same disgust as before. There was no warmth in her eyes at all. The very first thing she said was, "Ava, you are a disaster." Then she told me the Northern Territory had discovered our leopard. God contract had been completed. The child born from our union, possessing power far beyond ordinary beast clans. If such a child were born, no other nation would allow it to live, especially the North. They had already begun gathering their armies. They were even preparing to launch a war ahead of time. Bella looked at me coldly, saying the Empire fell into unrest because of me. And once the North truly marched to war, more and more people would die. As for Ken, he would absolutely go to the battlefield, just to protect me. Hearing that, my heart trembled violently, because I knew he truly would do it. That man had once said it himself. Even if the world stood against him, he would still protect me. My fear grew as I realized that, the more afraid I became. Bella continued, "If you really love him, then leave. It is the best choice." Those words pierced straight through my heart like a blade. The night I sat quietly at the bedside, watching the sleeping Ken for a very long time. And in the end, I still gently let go of his hand, then left the palace alone. That very night, I still chose to leave. No goodbye. No message left behind. Because I knew if he wake up, he would never allow me to go. The snowstorm raged endlessly around me. Alone, I left the royal city behind. The child inside my womb was becoming unstable. Along the journey, whenever wild beasts approached, golden power would automatically erupt from my body. I couldn't even control it myself, and the more it happened, the more terrified I became, because the child's power had already surpassed anything I could have imagined. I desperately fled toward the Northern Territory, because I knew the farther I stayed from the Empire, the less likely war would break out. Until finally, deep into the night, blizzard completely swallowed the road ahead. At last, I could no longer hold on. My body collapsed into the snow, And then I suddenly noticed something. In the distant snowfield, a massive trail of footprints had appeared. The next second, dozens of northern soldiers emerged from the storm.
I turned and ran, but those northern soldiers were clearly. They even knew I was pregnant. Their voices echoed relentlessly through the blizzard.
Don't let that child be there. Kill her.
I desperately tried to use my magic. My body had grown weaker during the pregnancy. Before long, I was cornered at the edge of a cliff. And just as they were about to strike, the child inside my womb suddenly began thrashing violently. The next second, a terrifying surge of golden power erupted instantly. Every soldier nearby was blasted away. Even the entire snowfield began to crack apart. Everyone froze in shock, because that child was actually protecting me. But after the power exploded, my body completely lost control as well. Agonizing pain instantly swept through every part of me. I collapsed to my knees in the snow. Blood stained the white ground beneath me, and in that moment, I realized the baby was about to be born.
The snowstorm grew heavier, knelling alone on frozen wasteland, body completely drained of strength. Ruthless northern soldiers marching forward, closing in step by step. They knew as long as they killed me, that dangerous child would never be born. The leader had already raised his weapon. Just as they were about to charge forward, the child inside my womb suddenly began struggling violently. A blinding burst of golden light exploded from my body. Boom! Terrifying power instantly swept across the plain. The raging blizzard itself was blown away. The ground began cracking apart wildly beneath us. Northern soldiers thrown flying, before reaching me. Some coughed blood on the spot. Others were swallowed directly by collapsing snow. Everyone was completely horrified by what they saw. Because that child had not even been born yet, and already possessed such terrifying power. And at last, I could no longer endure it. Pain consumed my entire body. Then, in the next second, accompanied by the cry of a newborn baby, my child was born. Cradled in my shaking arms, the little girl opened her eyes. Those golden beast-like eyes were exactly the same as Ken's. And finally, I completely collapsed. Holding my baby tightly, I fell into the endless storm. Blood spread across the white snow beneath me. Then suddenly, I felt something. The red bracelet around my wrist was beginning to grow warm. I lowered my head to look at it. The once brilliant crimson glow was starting to fade. That bracelet was the leopard god contract between Ken and me. And now, as the distance between us grew farther and farther, its light was gradually disappearing too. I clenched the bracelet tightly in my hand. Tears finally spilled uncontrollably down my face. This time, after leaving, would Ken and I never see each other again? 6 years passed quickly, hiding in a small town, near the Northern Territory edge, with my daughter. I named her Alice. She was smart, beautiful, but terrifyingly dangerous. Since she was little, she possessed power far beyond ordinary bees. Sometimes, when her emotions slipped out of control, everything around her would explode instantly. Even wild beasts instinctively avoided her. So, over the years, I had done everything possible to hide her identity, who her father was.
Meanwhile, 6 years later, Ken had officially inherited the throne. He became the Empire's new king, and now he was even colder and more ruthless than before. According to the rumors, no one dared disobey his commands, and no one dared mention my name anymore. It was as if I had never existed at all.
Until that day, Alice secretly ran out of town on her own. Realizing it, she was already gone. Instant panic consumed me. Northern forest filled with deadly beasts. I rushed into the forest like I had lost my mind, calling Alice's name over and over and over again. But what we found her, I suddenly stopped dead in my tracks. Because not far away, standing in the snow, Alice was with a man, and that man was Ken. 6 years, his body carried an overwhelming pressure, making others afraid to approach. At his feet lay a gigantic beast, sliced cleanly in half by a single strike. Blood had nearly stained the entire snowfield red. Yet Alice was not afraid of him at all. She even walked toward him, then reached out her tiny hand and gently touched the leopard tail behind him. Exactly the same movement as my first full moon night 6 years ago. The next second, Alice suddenly lifted her head. Those golden, beast-like eyes stared directly at Ken. Then, in her soft, childish voice, she asked,
"Why are your eyes the same as mine?"
We returned to the cabin together. The entire room fell completely silent. Step by step, Ken walked toward me. After 6 years apart, the pressure radiating even more dangerous, especially those golden beast-like eyes. As though he had finally recovered, he had prayed he once lost. I had barely opened my mouth when he grabbed my wrist. The next second, he pinned me against the door.
Where else are you planning to run?
Because over these 6 years, imagined countless versions of reuniting, but never once like this, as though he truly wanted to swallow me whole. The next second, Ken wrapped an arm around my waist. The next day, Ken brought both me and Alice back. Returning here again after 6 years, I felt so suffocated I could barely breathe, because I knew this place had never truly welcomed me. And now, I had returned with a child who possessed terrifying power. Along the way, everyone secretly stared at Alice, especially when her golden beast-like eyes appeared. Some of the maids were so frightened they didn't even dare approach her, but Alice didn't understand any of that. It was her first time seeing such a huge palace. She ran around excitedly everywhere. She even kept clinging to Ken non-stop. And although Ken still looked cold on the surface, he never pushed her away even once. For the first time in my life, I saw the man feared by the entire empire patiently accompanying a child. But at that exact moment, something unexpected happened. Alice had only been playing with a small beast pet. But when she became too excited, boom! A terrifying burst of golden power exploded instantly. The entire hall shattered apart. Every crystal chandelier around us burst into pieces. Even the floor began collapsing. The nobles screamed in terror. Some were directly thrown backward by the shockwave, and Alice herself became frightened too. She stood frozen in place, staring helplessly at her own hands. Everyone looked at Alice in horror. Because at that moment, they finally realized the child's power had already become dangerously uncontrollable. That very night, I had just managed to coax Alice to sleep. The doors shoved open violently. I turned around sharply. Bella had actually entered together with the Empress, and behind them stood a large group of royal guards. I instinctively realized I stepped in front of Alice, but Bella only looked at me with a cold sneer.
Ava, just look at the monster you raised. When you ran away for 6 years, you nearly dragged the entire empire into war. And now you still have the nerve to remain in the palace?
Blood immediately spread across the corner of my mouth, but I couldn't care less about the pain, because Bella suddenly grabbed Alice. Alice was startled awake instantly, crying. She reached her arms toward me. I lunged toward her like I had gone mad, but the guards forced me violently onto the floor. Meanwhile, the Empress simply looked one at me coldly. From this day forward, Alice will be raised by the royal family. As for me, I no longer have the right to remain by her side. I desperately tried to take Alice back, but the guards pinned me down tightly, face pressed to the freezing floor. I couldn't even stand up, and Alice was still crying, reaching toward me over and over. At that moment, it felt as though my heart was being torn apart alive, yet the Empress merely watched, everything coldly. Then she spoke.
Take the child to the temple. Without my permission, Ava is forbidden from going anywhere near Alice.
I completely lost control. I struggled with everything I had, fingernails scraping until tearing open, bleeding. Then, in the next second, Bella suddenly stepped down hard onto my back, heel viciously grinding against wounds. Pain shot through my entire body instantly. I trembled uncontrollably. But Bella only bent down beside me, laughing softly near my ear.
Ava, do you really think you can still be queen? The Empress only cares about one thing, that child.
After saying that, she suddenly grabbed my hair harshly, forcing me to watch as Alice was dragged away. Alice cried so hard, her voice became hoarse. And she even began losing control of her power again. Golden magic violently shook the entire palace hall, but in the next instant, the Empress struck her staff against the floor. Boom! A purple seal instantly descended onto Alice's body. Alice immediately collapsed to the ground in pain. Her tiny body trembled nonstop. The moment I saw that, I completely broke down. Like a madwoman, I tore myself free from the guards and threw myself desperately toward her. After Alice was taken away, I almost completely lost my mind. Bella looked like getting revenge so long. The servants immediately locked cold chains around my wrists, metal digging deep into skin, hands going numb from pain. Bella sat on elevated seat, watching me like a performance. My skin split open and crack! But Bella only laughed.
Continue. Beat her and
Then came the second lash, the third, blood streaming down my back. Alice was crying out for me. I began to regret everything. Regret coming back. If it weren't for me, Alice would be safe and never have been taken away. I didn't know how much time had passed. My body collapsed heavily onto the floor. And just before I completely lost consciousness,
Ken, it's not what it looks like.
the doors kicked open. The room fell silent. I lay on the floor covered in blood.
My consciousness was already fading. Even so, I recognized that figure in sleep.
it was
Punishment?
Bella completely panicked. She frantically, desperately tried to explain.
She said it was all the Queen's order.
When you use the soul-devouring whip, do you ever think about how you were going to die? Throw Bella into the pit of death. She is never to come out again.
Bella completely broke down because everyone in the Empire knew what the pit of death was. A prison filled with the most terrifying monsters alive, crawling to grab his clothing. But Ken Tosen never looked at her again. He only tightened his arms around me. His voice had become unbearably hoarse.
I failed to protect you.
For the next several days, Ken barely left my side. The deer healer came every day to treat my wounds. And Alice was finally brought back to me. That day, the little girl saw me. Bursting into tears, throwing herself into my arms, she kept crying and calling for me over and over. And at last, I couldn't hold back anymore. I hugged her tightly and broke down crying too. Ken simply stood nearby quietly, watching us. And in that moment, I felt like every bit of pain I had endured was worth it. Later, Ken prepared another wedding for me. But this time, there was no trial, no contract, and no one forcing me into anything. The entire palace was covered in a sea of golden flowers. I wore a wedding dress that truly belonged to me. Day of the ceremony, watching me, those eyes that were always cold and intimidating for the first time, they were impossibly gentle. He walked toward me step by step. Then, in front of the entire empire, he gently kissed the back of my hand.
This time,
he said softly,
no one will ever take you away from me again.
And Alice happily threw herself into our arms. Golden flower petals drifted down from the sky. And finally, I understood something. True happiness was never about running away. It was about having someone willing to protect you with everything they had.